Okay, YouTube, here is one of the coolest material items the Lord's ever blessed me with, my 1950 Chevy. We're working on an alignment today. By we, I mean me. Little apprehensive about taking a 65-year-old front end to get aligned. Not many guys know how to do it, and even if they do, you're looking at about 150 bucks and there's still play in the front end. So what I did was I took some about 2-inch by 1-inch pine, finishing pine from Home Depot, and I put slits in the end for tape measures and used a bungee cord to wrap it around my wheel. If you look underneath, see the tape measures go across. Now this car is lowered 2.5 inches with dropped uprights, so I kind of have to go low on the wheel. A lot of stock 40s, 50s, 30s vehicles, in back, you should be able to go almost across the center of the wheel and get a pretty accurate toe-in measurement. The other side here, it's just the tips of the tape measures. Of course, you want to make sure that wood's carved out the same on both sides, so you don't get, on this particular vehicle, it's 1/8 of an inch. That's a 1954 front suspension. So you could easily eat up that 1/8 of an inch in error by having one of the tabs at the end of your tape measure stick out too far. So be cautious with that. I did put these bungee cords over the top of the tire, around the the steering knuckle and everything, and down, and they're holding on, holding those pieces of wood across the tire. You probably could notch out where you think the tips of the hooks on the bungee cords are going to go, and it would hold it a little better. But this worked out fine for me. I was still able to rock the vehicle back and forth as I made my adjustments. This particular car has one adjustable tie rod, the other one is solid, so you make up the difference in the steering gear with what's called a drag link. So that's an adjustable connection between the pitman arm and the steering linkage. So there's a little bit of finagling. A lot of guys don't like to do it. It doesn't bother me. Again, I was able to roll the vehicle back and forth enough to get accurate measurements without taking this stuff off. The other cool thing is, if you look, the wood, you find a reference point on your fenders. I know that this isn't rocket science. I know that this isn't a computer alignment on something like those cars, which absolutely need it. But, this is much more accurate than string and chalk. Much easier, in my humble opinion. And, and I've gotten great results so far. I'm exactly 1/8 toe. Very excited to take it for a test drive because it was off substantially, and those measurements were, I was using jack stands in front of and behind the car with string, then measuring from said parallel strings to the rim. But this proves to be a little bit more accurate because, one of those jack stands off an inch at the back of the car just magnifies to the entire measurement. So 2 pieces of wood I had kicking around in the basement, and so there's really no cost. Those tape measures are from Harbor Freight, same part number, so I'm sure they're, there's no discrepancy between the two. They were $1.50 each. So here's an alignment. If you have bungee cords, wood, and 2 identical tape measures, here's an alignment for free. Again, I wouldn't try it on something modern like those guys, but on something old like this, absolutely. If you have a perfectly restored car and $900 wide white wall tires, you might want to pay the $150 it costs you to get it aligned professionally. But for what I'm doing here, this is more than enough. Also want to talk to you guys about CASTOR and Camber. I got this angle finder also from Harbor Freight. You can use an app on your phone if you'd like, but the hub here, that is a, behind this cap that pops right off. This back here, the edge of that is a machine surface. So if you pop off this cap and you put your magnetic angle finder on that hub, you are gonna get a camber reading. I used a piece of pine, again, finishing pine. I think it was like a 5 by 3/4 inch piece, about the width of the front suspension. I laid it across my work area on my garage floor here and made sure it was level. That way we know these measurements here are accurate. But with that on the hub right there, that's going to give you camber. This particular vehicle wants a degree. So, kind of tough with a crude tool like this, but again, it's not rocket science on an old, I don't want to say loose, it's in good shape, but, there was play designed into these right from the factory. And with radial tires, you know, you're going to have to play around a little bit anyways, because they actually do track straight. Bias plies are what this car was designed to run, and they do not. So anyway, so that's going to give you your camber. If you turn the wheels, you're going to have to do your own research on this, but I believe if you turn the wheels about halfway lock to lock, that will give you, so if I was to turn this wheel kind of that way and then stick this on, so now it's at an angle like that, that should give you, and again, do your own research, depends on each vehicle, but that should give you your CASTOR reading, which is probably the most elusive of all alignment readings. Basically, that's the angle, you know, that the suspension tips back or forward. You want to think of like a shopping cart. The front wheels on a shopping cart, they always go straight relative to the cart because they're angled back like that, you know, so you're more or less dragging the wheels. Old vehicles without power steering, that setting is far different from a modern car because I believe it's negative CASTOR. A tiny bit of negative CASTOR makes the car easier to steer at lower speeds, and they were fine around 45, 50, 55, maybe 60. You get up around 80 miles per hour, and even one of these cars brand new, it just didn't track like a new vehicle. So that's another setting that you might want to play around with. But it can be measured from this machine surface with an angle finder, and you will have, you know, a decently aligned vehicle that you could drive to get ice cream or take to work on a day here and there. Obviously, you're not going to want to, you know, drive it across the country 5 times and expect to have perfectly evenly worn tires, but you know, this is great for somebody that just threw together a front end, wants to get close and then have it done, or, you know, somebody like me that has a driver that, you know, has $50 tires on it that, you know, they could kind of care less. They'd rather save the, you know, the $150 and spare the car from getting touched by somebody else. So, basically, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this was somewhat helpful. I don't do the whole like thing or subscribe or whatever. I mean, I don't even know how it works. If you want to do that and you're good with it, go ahead. Otherwise, you know, thanks for your time. God bless. Take care.